to the Max MPS Radio. My name is Jan Frisse, and today we have a really special episode of Amerika with 3DMJ, because I'm not only welcoming my buddy Anthony from Vienna, but also his coach Alberto Nuñez from Amerika, which is who is not only an superb pro natural bodybuilder, but also like an educator and a coach from 3DMJ. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to our discussion, guys, and I'm welcoming you both.
Hey, I feel welcome. Thank you, guys.
Hey, man.
Cool. So we will actually kick it in with me asking Toni about his last, I think it's like 3 or 4 weeks that we didn't talk about his contest prep. So yeah, man, what had happened?
Okay, I guess it's been 3 weeks, yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, I guess there happened a lot. As we just discussed, I'm in a phase where you can see progress on a daily basis or on a weekly basis at least. And so I guess I would say that digging really begun. It's like just like the time where it's also the number, I guess, like 10 weeks out, as soon as you realize that it's like, oh man, especially when you're prepping for a longer time, I guess, because the prep went pretty smooth, I guess. And as soon as you hit this 10, 9, 8 weeks out mark, it's just like, oh, damn, I'm getting excited. But I've also to admit to the fact that it really kicks in now. So I'm pretty happy to get this done by the end of the third show, because man, there's one disadvantage to long prep. It's not the hunger or not the hunger or anything. It's just you're in for there so long that your mind gets a bit exhausted. So that's something that I recognize, especially the last days. It's just when you have other things to do. But otherwise than that, progress is pretty fine, I guess. I know I'm the stressed bodybuilder who wants it faster, but I guess we are on the right path, and yeah, we'll go into details later.
Cool. Actually, maybe we can start discussing around your. You talked about being busy still in the last episode. I remember that, and. Do you have days where you actually aren't really busy, and I think you find it harder then, right?
Yeah, very good question. Very good question. Yes, with coaching, like people write or call you, like everybody calls you one day, and there's 1 or 2 days where nobody wants anything from you. So especially on the days where I don't have any personal training, I don't work out, I don't have anything to do. That's the hardest days, man, because then I'm at home. I try to read as many pages as I can, but my brain doesn't want that. But that's another. And then the food is always there. The fridge is always there. So yeah, I guess it's pretty funny, isn't it? But the days where you're not, but the days where you can be the laziest. Where you can really relax actually are the hardest, because they don't pass by. You know what I mean? But yeah, very good question. I like being busy. It just keeps me awake and lets me not think too much about this prep.
Yeah. Do you have anything to add to that, Berto?
No, I think he brings up a lot of good points when it comes to dieting. Is you want to keep a certain level of active routine, and you need to have backup plans. I think for sure that's one thing that's helped me. It's like when there is idle time, it's like there's things that I do, like whether it be a book that I'm reading, but something. I don't know, pick up a new hobby, like build train sets and stuff. But you need something, because those are the hardest moments. It's when you're waiting for, like, because time is painful in a way when you get to that point.
Yeah.
and time with nothing to do. It's like you're just sitting there talking about your pain to yourself. So yeah, you want to have, you definitely want to take into account that maybe how much stress you can put up with is not the same as when you're well fed and like have great energy all the time, but at the same time you don't want to empty everything out.
Yeah, absolutely good points. And I think especially if you're like self-employed, I mean, we are all self-employed, so you don't really have like a fixed schedule that you have to do. Like you don't have like a day job. And I think especially, I mean, in the end, it's important all the time, but in prep, it could really help to really have like a fixed structure with your self-employed work. So,
yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's
nobody tells me to do something.
Yeah, that's the thing. You don't have like a boss who's telling you to come to work, and so I mean, it's not like it's not important if you're in off season, but I think if you have your schedule in place before you start your prep, it's actually a good thing. And I mean, I think we all agree that you should have your shit in place before you start a prep.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The whole self-employed thing, it's funny. I like how it's coming back, because there's a point in time where very rare, but now it's more common.
Yeah.
I just think it's greater good for like everything, because you know how it is. Like, I think we've all been employees at some point. Like, I didn't give a fuck, you know. It's like or barely did. But when it's like your own stuff, it's like it's very different. So whatever it is, like it's like you do a better job on the service end. Because like it's your business, you know. So I love that part. I like that. Just a random tangent, but I'm like, yeah, it's like there was a time where everyone was kind of self-employed, you know. It's like this man had his fruit shop, that man had his fruit shop, and you know, it's like we're all trying to get the best fruits. And like in the fitness industry, I like that. There's a lot of self-employment. It makes it a lot better for sure. Like, and it keeps everyone pushing to get better too, which is a great thing.
Yes. Totally.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. So you went over being actually the digging has started right now. So did you had any situation where you were just like, man, I can really feel it. I mean, we touched on as we approached the Skype that you actually did go out yesterday and you did your little Trainwisely prep rave. But you also told me that it was like definitely more exhausting than usually.
Yes. Okay, good point. Yeah, I'm. You know, here in Vienna, like every Friday you have pretty good techno events. So I go on raves pretty much every Friday. I still do that, but yesterday there was another event where I went to, and man, like 30 minutes in, it hit me. Like the music wasn't that good at this point, and I was like, "Oh fuck, all these people!" Like, you know, with techno, like 80% of people are on drugs, which is fine for me. I don't judge them. That's cool. As soon as they are happy, I'm happy too. But I was a bit annoyed, man. It's just your tolerance for other people, it gets down, and my body. That's something that I have to discuss with Alberto later with the next check-in, but it was this week where it really hit me with my body gets pretty heavy. Like when you have winter boots on, you know what I mean? This feeling? It's like your feet. It's like
your knees and ankles just feel heavy. Those two areas in particular. Yeah.
And you know, with dancing and moving, that's a problem. But then the DJ friend of mine came and he put up some speedy techno, and then it was all good. But you know, it's a mindset, I guess. It's as soon as the music really hits you, you're in the zone. But yeah, I was tired today. So this week is really the week where I say, okay, my body wants to tell me something. Also, training is still fine. But yeah, it's like in the morning. I didn't have it yet that you wake up and are like dizzy as hell, and that's starting now. So also a good point is what I've changed up is Alberto told me some weeks ago he was once the breakfast guy, and then he wasn't the breakfast guy, and so on. He always changed it during a prep. I did too, and what really changed things for me was just to have more calories in the morning, man. And I'm at a point now where I could not live without that anymore. So in the beginning of the prep, you don't really have to breakfast. You have just a shake, you know. But for now, I'm having like 1,000 calories in the morning, because you don't really get food coma anymore. You could eat 4,000 calories and you're fine. But yeah, so I really need my calories in the morning. That's something that I recognized.
Do you then feel it later in the day if you don't have any
Yes.
calories remaining?
Yes, I'm actually getting hungrier.
Okay.
So I'm not the guy who has a lot of problems with hunger, because man, I know in a half a year there will be food. But yeah, I'm hungry in the evening. Of course, that's a disadvantage to this strategy. But it's better to be hungry in the evening than just dizzy in the morning and in the midday. And you have to imagine I'm spending the whole day in the gym.
Yeah.
And that's my sacrifice, man. To be hungry in the evening, that's okay. That's the time where I'm alone anyway. So
yeah, I mean, we touched on that last episode actually. That
Yeah.
you at some point you just have to suck it up, and you just have to suck the hunger up, and
then it's just a question how well can you organize that by not letting your outside world feel that. And man, I hate to admit it, but I'm at a point where I cannot really talk to everybody anymore. It's for like, especially in the gym, it's just when I'm training, I have to get it done, man. And it's you have to play in front of people. So I don't think everybody recognizes that I'm prepping. But for sure, some people are like, what the fuck is wrong with him? He used to talk so much, and now he's like just passing by. I feel very sorry, but just the case, man. I can't change that.
can you actually relate to that, Berto?
Yeah, definitely. It goes through many phases, and the phase where he's in right now, it's definitely the most difficult.
Yeah.
It's where, like he said, it's like he's changing every day, but at the same time, you could also have moments where I guess you don't necessarily change for the better. Like you're a little flat, and then maybe there's some water retention that comes along with that, and that can make you freak out. And it can happen like very quickly, even though like maybe 10 hours ago you're like, I look great. So there's that. There's it gets to the point where, yeah, your ability to cope with things outside of your prep definitely downgrade. And there's even things that you have to cut off at a certain point. Like,
Yeah.
you know what, this is like, when it got, for me, there was a point where maybe going out with friends, like initially it was actually like, it was relieving, and I wasn't there like partaking in activities the way I typically would, but just being there was nice, and it was fun, and I enjoyed seeing everyone together. But eventually it got to the point where it's like, this is more stressing to me than anything else. I'd much rather be at home reading a book. So yeah, there's this is the most rewarding leg, but at the same time it's also I wouldn't say it's the most dangerous leg. Like most people, if they get to this point in a prep, like they're gonna make it. But it's the hardest one, the most memorable part of your contest prep. Yeah, there will be single moments that you will remember for years afterwards.
Yeah, totally.
Did any of those moments already happened, Toni?
For me, yes. One with my mother, like 2 days ago. I was a bit angry. I like ignored her, and afterwards I was like, man, what the fuck is wrong with me? Why? It's my mother, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't want to talk to my mother now, so. But you know, you just have to self-reflect. You know what's going on, so it's not that bad. But for her, it's bad. That's the thing.
Yeah.
That's why you always have to take your loved ones before the prep and tell them, hey, give me some weeks and I will be pretty strange. So it's the second prep, so she knows how that goes. But it's always a bit sad, you know what I mean? There are some moments that I will remember for a long time, yes.
Yeah, I think talking to loved ones before is like a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
I remember sets of leg extensions from 2008, like this one set in particular. And I remember just looking at the weight, looking at the pad, and I'm like, let's do this. and I remember like it's happening like right now, and it's like it's leg extensions, and it was like 10 years ago. So yeah, it's man, it's traumatizing in a way, but at the same time, those are some of your best memories, even though they're times of conflict. Often it's some of the things that you're like, oh man, I remember, I can't wait to do that again, oddly enough.
It's like everybody in the gym comes to me and approaches me and it's like, oh yeah, I want to prep too. And I'm like, no, you don't. But yeah, it's I don't want to be the bodybuilder who says he likes pain, but man, I'm pretty high every day right now. It's just this, it's like a movie. It's your own movie, and you're rocking hard. It's your story.
Well, I like the chase as an athlete. That's the thing that I like. Yeah, it's hard, but it's like the agonizing and the like drama within your little movie is like, it's honestly, it's like, it's a privilege to be able to do that. And all the shitty things that like you're kind of fighting off that sometimes are hard. It's like, but that's exactly what I wanted when I was in my well state of mind, and I decided that the prep was going to happen. You wanted it to be shitty. You wanted to like, you know, fight those monsters. No, it's amazing. The experience as a whole it's an experience, like straight up.
Oh man, you guys are making me super excited for my prep in like 2 years or something. So, yeah, I mean, I didn't prep yet, but I mean, I had some prolonged diet phases, which I think the longest one was kind of like 5 months or something. I mean, of course, you cannot really compare it to a prep, but to a certain point, I can. And I remember I had some arguments with my mom like a year ago or something, and you just ate, and afterwards you were like, what the fuck did I just have done? Like, this is so random. And it's always like you eat and then you were like, for a moment at least you feel normal again. I don't know, probably at some point in prep you don't feel that anymore. You eat and you still feel like shit, but for me it was like I felt pretty shitty. Then I ate, and then I felt okay for like a few hours or something, like 1-2 hours or something.
20 minutes?
Yeah, maybe a bit longer. So that's something that I think I can use. Like, I don't know if it's how it's for you, Toni. Like right now, if you eat, if you still feel the food, or if you're at some point, if you're already at this point where food still doesn't work, like.
You know, it's funny. What I've changed up is like I had that really bad habit of watching stuff while eating, and it happened like in week 6 or 7 where I said, "Man, I was happy to have this meal the whole day. Now I'm having it. I'm just watching a random YouTube video of 3DMJ. Like, why?" And then it was a point where I switched it up, man. So I really try to be very conscious when eating, if that answers your question. But yeah, it's been some weeks that I'm on a point where food doesn't make you happy anymore. So
I don't mean happy, but just from like an energy standpoint.
Oh, okay.
I like at some point you just feel you don't have any energy, and if you then take in food, you feel at least for like a certain time frame, you feel kind of okay-ish, at least better, but then it drops off again.
Totally. It can actually be an apple. It's like, I don't know if it's just the mind, but as soon as you eat something, you're better afterwards. And yeah, totally. So every time I have food, I have a pretty high meal frequency at the moment, so 5 at least 5 times a day. That just really works for me at the moment, and yeah, it doesn't really matter how many calories. As soon as I have food, I'm better afterwards.
Berto, did you ever had any point where just like taking in food doesn't work anymore in terms of being just a little bit more energized for some time frames?
I think where I notice it the most is more so what I need pre-training to have a good training session, and how much closer it gets over time. So like right now, it's like I kind of like 2 hours because my training session is maybe about 90 minutes. So first of all, it fits with like my MPS windows, but also it lets the caffeine work, which is great because you want to be a little empty so that it really, really hits you. But what ends up happening at a certain point is just like caffeine just does less and less for you. So like you're like, what actually does help me is food, and that little window that you kept a little bit open so that the caffeine works, like you end up closing it, and it gets to the point where like I could have oatmeal, which oatmeal is for me, it's a process to digest, and I can. Like if I were to have oatmeal now, I'd probably need about 3 hours to train to like feel like I'm not burping oatmeal, like I'm feeling like light and ready. But during a prep, it's like, man, like in less than an hour, I could be in there and like already warming up. So, like for the rest of my day, I kind of just put on your big boy pants and like tough it out.
Yeah.
But when it comes to training, like that's where I really like, I'm like, if there's just one segment of the day where I need to feel good so that I can look right on stage, it's that window. So my feel good, everything else is like, just deal with it. But like that one, you can't just deal with training, like, because there's objective measures, and if you don't keep up with it, they start to fall off over time, and they can reflect on your physique. So that's where I notice it the most. Is more so like, it is off season. If you skip a meal, you're like, shoot, it's been 5 hours, but you can still get in there and like do something. But right now, like where he's at, it's like as you're driving, like you're stuffing your face basically.
Interesting.
Totally. It's funny. That's pretty true. I wasn't really thinking about that, but man, like 1 year ago, I would have had like 100 grams of oats, and man, 2 to 3 hours at least. But for now, I could eat that, stand up, start working out. It's true, pretty true.
Yeah, I remember for me it was kind of like always the pre-training window, like kind of like 1 to 2 hours maybe. I just had to bias a good portion of my carbs and also calories in general. And then towards the end of the day, pre-sleep, I kept it really voluminous, like most of my veggies and maybe some fruits and stuff like that. So I have to at least not go completely hungry to bed. So
But yeah, the pre-training meal is for sure the most important meal over the course of it. If you're one of those people who it's like you have 100 grams of carbs, it's like have 70 like before you train. Like everything else, like fuck it,
Yeah, I mean you can
kind of. Have you played with workouts in your last prep?
I think last prep I did a lot less of that. But flavor drinks, like, as you guys know, like it works, like it gets your brain like a little trigger happy and excited. So that I did a whole lot of, like, calorie-free drinks. I didn't do it nearly as much this prep. I can't explain to you why. I think because I was having that and it had a similar enough effect. And also training-wise, this last prep was probably the least hard when it came like to training. Like I think, like a lot of my performance measurements came off off my front squat, and I think so off season it was like maybe 365, 370, and like by the end of the prep it was maybe down 20 pounds. So like it was a lot easier to train this time compared to others, and I think it's a combination of just like doing the right amount of work. And then like learning to train in a deficit is a fucking skill. Like it's something that the first few times you get there, you're not very good at it, but with every passing time, and especially training in the deficit way below your body fat set point, that is a skill, and it just takes practice. And we've had enough practice at this point, so Yeah, no, not too much of that. The flavored drinks, yeah, and I do feel like they help.
Okay.
So did you experimented with any type of calorie beverage in intra-workout at all?
No, there might have been a day or something where I had some candy with me. I'm like, whatever, we'll do it this day. But there was never a standard practice this whole prep. But it is if you have the luxury, it's not a bad place to put in a little bit of carbohydrate, and it doesn't take a whole lot either. Like 10-15 grams is enough to get you back to baseline. So
it's kind of just chewing the carbs, right?
Yeah, I mean, just doing that in itself is like going to like mentally, and then when it comes to blood glucose levels, 10-15 grams is enough to, if you are kind of dipping a little bit, just kind of put you in a nicer place to train in.
Yeah, I even do currently I do it in my gaining training as well. Just like I think 12 grams of glucose or something. Works pretty well.
With me it was like all the time during prep. I thought, oh yeah, intra-workout, I'll maybe try that, and now I'm like 9 weeks out. I still haven't tried it. I don't really think I need it. Like, need is the wrong word. It's like, would it be a benefit? Yeah, we'll probably try that in the next week. Let's see.
Yeah.
Honestly, probably go with like, just to try it out, like go with like no calorie stuff, and you might be like, this is like enough to like kind of wake you up a little bit. So.
Yeah, I mean, it isn't that you get anything performance-wise. I think it's just like you get euphoric again, at least a little bit, and like your motivation up, and maybe then you push a little bit harder throughout the last bit of the session. That's what I kind of like observed. That normally those isolation exercises that maybe at the point where you get to them, it's kind of like I'm kind of like. It's not that you cannot do them, but it's like your motivation is like lower than in the beginning of the session because you just did all your compounds and stuff, and then it kind of helps.
Oh man, that hits me right now because yesterday I had calves in the end, and I had to hurry up because I had a personal training after my workout, and it was like, it felt like the hardest thing ever to do 4 sets of calves. I just, oh man, it's you can't really describe that, but. Yeah.
Did I?
Pardon?
It's super random, but I have to say, did I ever told you that? I think it was the first time I did train lower body in Vienna in das gym.
Yeah.
I trained and everything, and it was kind of like a longer lower body session. And in the end, I think even my last set of calves, just the atmosphere and stuff and the music, I was still so euphoric to train my fucking calves, and it was
I get that, man. I get that.
Only in das gym in Vienna.
Yeah.
I want to go to that gym. Like, it's ridiculous what it is.
You have to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I slept there yesterday. We have a hotel room where people from all over the world come, and when the hotel room is empty, I can sleep there.
That's so dope. Yeah, so cool. Yeah. Just looking at the pictures, it's an experience. Like, I have to go to that gym. I love new gyms, but that's a gym that, it's like more people need to hear about, especially over here.
Crazy. And like the owner is like, at the moment, if you ask him, he's like, oh yeah, it's ready by about 30%. I still have so much in my mind. And it really blows your mind because you're like 30%, like you have 20 recs with all the Lego stuff, like nobody else has.
That is insane. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I remember telling you all this stuff that they have and what it is and stuff.
Yeah.
And
crazy.
You definitely have to get there and see how it is.
Yeah.
Especially because I'm eating and training is fun, so like it's dieting, it will not be nearly as fun, but.
Yeah. I remember the owner of the gym actually took Mike Israel and his crew, like James Hoffman and Melissa Davis, around the gym for like half an hour or something, and they were so impressed, man.
Dude, absolutely. That's actually my next idea. Is like I want to take just for like YouTube. I want to have like a series of like going around the country, and like whenever there's a good gym, is like having someone take me through a tour of their gym, because that's always something like when you like do travel somewhere, it's like what is there? So like to just like develop like a little like list of stuff and give the owner's perspective and then my perspective and you know like rate them almost, but like you know they're all going to be having good ratings because you know they're all good gyms. I'm not going to do like a crappy gym, but yeah, like it's fun to review gyms and when you go to places like that, like you feel like telling everyone, they're like, do you guys know how lucky you guys are, you know? And
yeah,
and, like to them they're like they
Whatever.
understand, but like
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely super pumped for being in Vienna again. Mostly for the gym, to be honest.
Yeah, man, I have to remind myself every day, like it's a luxury. It's like a real luck to even work there. You know what I mean? I'm
Yeah.
pretty happy about that.
And
But it gets normal. I have to admit, it gets normal.
Yeah.
I walk there. It's
Yeah.
you get used to that.
I think it will definitely be an advantage at the end of prep, even if you don't notice it actually. Like,
Oh no, totally.
I remember talking to Valentin Tambosi
Yeah.
in my podcast with him, and he was like, at the end, it was in his prep, you go in there and you want to train. And I remember sometimes even in my gaining phase, if I go into my gym and see all, I don't want to sound like like a me, but it's just like something else. Like, even if it's well equipped, the people there are just like, it's a commercial gym. I don't know how bad it is in America, but in Germany right now at my place, it's really not that cool. I mean, I have like kind of like a few people that I'm good with, and they're good people.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot
It's
of
a good
hate.
point.
I gotta plug my gym because my gym is like really fucking good. It's not like homie over here's gym, but it's pretty good. And this is kind of like this kind of gives you an idea. It's like hardcore. It's definitely not like very pro natural bodybuilding, but it's very pro bodybuilding.
Okay.
So I remember I was going into the bathroom one day, and there was the shower curtain was like ripped off, and then there was blood everywhere, and you're like, what? Like, what happened, right? Maybe shaving accident, I don't know. But then this was the kicker. It was like there was oatmeal everywhere.
What?
So it's just like in my head, I'm like, yeah, that's Prodigy Gym. Only here would it happen. And don't even try to figure out. Just move on with your day. Yeah.
Oh man.
Man, that's a different
No one
kind
knows.
of story.
Yeah.
But no, that was a pretty good point, because you know what's very special with the gym in Vienna? I really recognized it in the last days. It's like, because there are so many people who do bodybuilding or any other extreme sport, they kind of feel you. So you walk in there having your leg day, are like exhausted, have your headphones on, and just like, oh man, how many sets do I have left? And you see somebody who you exactly know, oh, he has been through that. He feels me. So that's something very special. That's something that really gives me a lot. Just being surrounded by people who
Yeah, what I really like is that just like every freaking barbell sport is just connected over there. Like, you have your strongman people, then you have like the powerlifting crowd, the weightlifting crowd, and then you have the bodybuilders over there who just pull on their pants and flex their quads, and it's like super cool, man. I saw a strongman in there which has like a huge travel bag with his equipment.
Yeah.
Do you know him?
Yeah, probably Nemo. He's the strongest guy of Austria.
Oh,
He
cool.
trains in our gym.
Berto's like, oh, just booked like my flights to Vienna.
Yeah. No, like what you said, it's the fact that everything's like really connected.
Yeah.
Because when it all started, like the whole like lifting and physical culture, it kind of was like that, you know, and then eventually things kind of specialized, right? But I know that for me, when I first started training, like I didn't just want to be jacked, I also wanted to be strong.
Yeah.
So when I see athletes that are doing really well when it comes to strength specialization, I'm like, that's really awesome. You know, when I see a strong man, I'm like that's really impressive.
Yeah.
And I don't understand your kind, but I appreciate it. So yeah, seeing that and everyone getting along together, and yeah, the bodybuilder's dropping his pants again. But it's like whatever
Yeah,
is those are the best gyms.
yeah. It's like one big family.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
everybody does his thing, but
Yeah.
it's like everybody's connected as well.
Nobody judges you for you thing actually. That's
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Cool. Going on. Maybe we can now touch on the thing that I wrote down those two questions, and maybe we will introduce that topic because we now covered kind of like what happened to Toni in the last few weeks. So Toni and I actually kind of thought about what we will going to talk about with you, and it's kind of like an interesting topic, like just not mindset as an natural natural bodybuilder, but also like as a young athlete actually, because you're in the game for like a lot longer than we are, and I mean you were young at a point, so maybe what are characteristics and attributes that you think someone has to have to be like a successful natural bodybuilder long term, especially if you're like a younger guy?
I think to kick things off, having like I look back at my initial days that weren't very, putting it politely is it wasn't the most efficient way of getting to my goals.
Yeah.
I look back at those and I'm like, yes, they were, not well designed, but I definitely learned to work like really hard and inside and outside the gym. Outside the gym, I was following all these rules that, maybe didn't have to be followed. They weren't as big of a part of my success as I thought at that point. And then inside the gym, a lot of my success was built upon like just training harder than last time. So I feel that initially, it's very important that the work ethic part. It's almost like, hey, like the military has boot camp for soldiers, right? It's like, hey, we're gonna like mess you up, and then we're gonna teach you like stuff. And I think that's a good order, I feel. And it's not to say you can't do both. Like if you are in a point where, like, hey, you get introduced to this section, like the more evidence-based section of just general like fitness and strength training, good. But don't ever think that you can like hack your way into like getting results, because there's like working hard is something that it helps fix so many errors in people who are not doing things right. They get progress because they're working really, really fucking hard. So I think that'd be the first one, is like make sure that I think initially you have to always be a little skeptical about how hard you are working, because we all know people like that. If they think they're going hard and you're like, bro, you really don't know how to go hard. And that was always like my thing growing up. My favorite athlete was a football player by the name of Jerry Rice, but his thing was the fact that he's the guy that invented like there is no off season. Back in the day, like players would do the season and then like go party in Mexico until the season started again. And he was the guy that's like, nope, like as soon as it's done, like I'm getting to work. And like to me, because he was not very genetically gifted, he was got good genetics, but nothing like out of this world. So like to me, that always always like work like Jerry, like be the person that is working hard, be the person that like everyone else looks at and they're like, fuck, I'm impressed. Like he's making all of us like look like we're sleeping. So that was always a huge part. That was a huge part of my initial success, I feel. And I would urge guys to, if you can, like be around that sort of atmosphere, whether it be, a gym, like some gyms, or at least if you can connect with a training partner who is like ambitious as you. I think that goes a long way in helping you build that work ethic initially. So yeah, I'd say that's probably the biggest thing. The number one thing, that is your base from which all the plans that work from that point on are going to be, carried through, is your ability to fucking grind.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I remember we actually talked about that in Cologne a few months ago. that just training hard and training to failure a lot will get you far, actually.
Yeah,
and,
well, very far.
Yeah. And I also, I talked to Steve Hall, I think 2 days ago, about periodization as a physique athlete. And my first question was actually, which people do you think shouldn't periodize? And we kind of concluded that like beginners don't need to periodize their training. And then we kind of talked about what to prioritize over those like detailed stuff. And we kind of went over like technique and stuff, learning motor patterns, but then also just fucking work hard, man. Like you have to learn it. And I mean the traditional way was kind of like the old school bro thing, like everybody just train to failure all the time, just train fucking hard and just doing, I don't know, triple drop sets on leg extensions like for 20 sets or something like really, something like really crazy. And nowadays it's kind of like people that get introduced to the evidence-based crowd before, it's kind of like, I don't want to say that the people don't know how to work hard, but it seems at least that some people kind of, it's like a different way of actually learning it. And
they just don't get introduced to it. That's the thing.
I mean, when I started training, like my training partner just let me do everything to failure and beyond, like -3 reps in reserve or something, like RP 13. But I kind of what we touched on, like people that get introduced into the evidence-based crowd initially, and you definitely should be sure that you work hard.
So like one of my favorite stories of like just kind of like what you're willing to do, like here's the thing, it's like that gear is appropriate but not appropriate all the time, and you'll get more out of yourself and you'll be able to do this longer if like structure. So you have a plan, periodization, right? But like initially it's like you can't even hit that gear, like you think you do, but you don't. And one of my favorite stories of just kind of like the outside of the gym perspective of this was, so my buddy Brian Miner, he was an intern at his first degree was in construction management. And, in that culture, it's like, we take lunch breaks, but sometimes you have to skip them. That's just how it is. The work needs to be done. So he needed to make gains. And he was also like very poor, like college student, so he couldn't just have whey protein shakes, and he didn't want to bring it out because it was culturally almost like, what are you doing, dude? So what he was doing is he was going into, you guys know what a porta potty is? It's like a stationary bathroom that you have in construction sites, like, it's like a bathroom floor, right?
Like a Dixie
So
club.
he was going, so he was going there in between, like just where he was just taking breaks to use the bathroom, because that's generally accepted in any culture. You can use the bathroom. And he was like opening and eating like canned tuna, just like draining it in there and just like with nothing and just doing that, throwing the can away and going back to work. But that's what he was willing to do to like make his progress. And you look back at that and you're like, man, that was probably unnecessary, right? You probably could have just opened up your feedings to, I don't know, like 4 or 5 hours and you would have been okay. But that's what he was willing to do to make progress. And it's always nice, like when you have done stupid shit like that, to know that, hey, you know what, I have that gear there because when I need it, I can absolutely like take it there, and I'm very confident in what I can extract from myself.
Yeah, good points. I kind of liked Eric Helm's perspective on it. I think it was on the Revive Stronger podcast where Steve actually asked him about. Do you think that people train harder nowadays because they all know, they know this like fatigue management things and like RPE and deloads? And he kind of concluded that he thinks that in the end, overall, people are actually working harder because they can do so much more.
Yes.
I think that's a really good point, and because training hard is not only involving going to failure, but also doing like your appropriate volumes and absolute intensities, and also like frequency to a part at least, and I think it's a good point that you made.
Totally. Yeah.
It'll let you go further for sure, and I think my first like dabble in like let's try what makes sense was just cutting my reps. I think it was like 2 sets away from failure, 2 reps away from failure, and I didn't trust it. I didn't trust it because at that point it was failure everything, and it was just crazy to me. I was like mind blown because like within like 2 months, I'm like, I am like over 10% stronger than where I started.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it was this way. So yes, absolutely. Yeah, having a plan, especially once you get into the intermediate phase, will let you do a lot more stuff basically.
Yeah, I mean, if you do like an RPE 10 set, what are you going to do next week? Like, you can probably not add load without decreasing reps. So at least not if you're not like a beginner or something. It's kind of like the clean eating thing. Like, people do like the super bro stuff, only eating chicken and broccoli and rice, but like only for 3 months, and then they burn out. Or like, let's say maybe some people can do it for like years, but I mean, in the end there's more to food than like broccoli, rice and chicken.
And it comes back to get those people at some point.
What?
Don't tell me at this point.
Ah, sorry, man.
Don't tell me that at this point. I'm pretty happy with just having chicken without salt on. So.
It's funny. Chicken and broccoli is like pretty dope when you're dieting, right?
Yeah. I think maybe you can give us some insights about your thoughts about that. I kind of talked to Toni that he kind of don't use any spices. Is that the word, right? Spices anymore, and that really helps because food is just super bland, and you eat it and you like done.
Yes.
Yeah. The whole decision-making exhaustion with like beginner IFYM, I think, is something that initially is like you feel like you're getting away with murder, right? And then like it becomes like to the point where like it's like I think we all have seen those Instagrams, like everyone's taking close-ups of their pictures, and it's like you're like, this is all like cereal like from super close and pancakes from super close, and I'm like, and once, because if you've done flexible dieting, you've been there before, and you're like, I know exactly where this person is at, and they're not getting away with nearly as much shit as they think they are. So yeah, I think that what IFYM does is that eventually it turns you into an educated dieter, which is probably, I think like when people like, are you an IFYMer? I'm like, fuck, I guess so, but the goal is to learn. Like it's a process where you become an informed dieter and you can make the right decisions on the go, and what is best for you right now, and take into consideration all these moving parts, not just what's gonna give you the best Instagram picture or what's gonna shock people because hey, you're 3 weeks out and you're eating this, but more so like Prepper will do in the last few weeks. It's like you're eating specifically for that, and it's, I think to a bro, they see that and they're like, who's not informed, not educated, they're like, see, because it works and it's magical, but that's not the reason why. It's for reasons totally unrelated to what they might assume. So yeah, I love the fact that flexible dieting eventually turns you into a well-informed dieter, and you can make like the best decisions, whether it's like 3 weeks out or you're on a date with your significant other, and you know how to navigate through the menu in a much more efficient way. So yeah, it's a process though. It's definitely earned for sure.
Yeah, I nowadays don't use the term if it fits your macros anymore, because it just implies that whatever you do, at least as long as if it fits your macros, it's like do whatever you want, but it's kind of like more than that. And I just use flexible dieting, and I think that the term flexible dieting implies just so much more than just if it fits your macros.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a cult almost.
Yeah, it's funny because I've been thinking a lot about that lately, and with my first prep, man, I'm still not perfect, not at all, but with my first prep, man, I try to fit so much in there, you know what I mean, and have different shit every day and go to the grocery store for hours just try to find something, you know what I mean. And I'm still not perfect at this with my relationship to food, not at all. But as Alberto said, it's a process, and for some people it takes longer, for some people it takes pretty quick. But you really have to see it as a process. You learn so much with flexible dieting, and that's why I really love letting my people, my clients, count calories for some time. Yeah. Let it be a week. Let it be a week, man. It's just every time they come back and say, oh, I can eat so much vegetables, so much apples. That's so less calories, and the I don't know, the chocolate bar, I don't even want that anymore. And so
cool.
There's so much, but it's a process. Yeah, it takes a lot of time. And now with my second prep, it's not, I'm not eating like that because it works. It's just, it makes it so much easier when you're prepping. I really lost my food focus. Food at the moment for me, it has a function. As we said, I want to have a good workout. I know that if I'm good in the gym, I will retain my muscle. So what can I do? I can sleep. I can reduce my stress. I can eat well, and I can not think too much about food because that otherwise will bring me stress. So food at the moment is just, it has a function, man. For me, the bigger question is how will my relationship to food be after the prep? That's just something for me that 9 weeks out is just a lot more interesting. Because as soon as the shows are done and the goal is gone, then it's interesting how your relationship to food is gonna be. But as we had a pretty long prep and I had the luxury to have a lot of retreats, I had 2 diet breaks. I won't be so stressed out. So that's also a point. With all the flexible dieting and if it's a macro thing. Dieting for longer periods of times, man, it reduces your stress and you can jump out of that prep wagon and be pretty sure that you don't have to binge for 3 days because you haven't had all these foods in years. You know what I mean? So that's the more important question to me at the moment. But no, it's a process. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember just walking through a grocery store post-workout. Just walking through there for like 30 minutes or something, just looking at everything and try to read the label and stuff. Like I remember like my I don't know which year, 2015 or 14 or something, like when you all when you learned about like tracking your macros and stuff like that. It was kind of funny. It was a funny process. If you
get away with murder is such a good description.
Absolutely.
Felt like
absolutely.
That.
Because then you at the end I was you kind of fitted in something and it was like super not satisfying.
Yeah.
And then you were like, oh man, now I have like, it's like 1 p.m. or something and I have like 400 calories left or something. Those were the days.
I have a client at the moment who is prepping too for bodybuilding, and
cool.
It took us so long to get him into the flexible dieting thing because he was a real bro. He had his chicken and rice every day, and that made him happy. You know what I mean? But I also recognize that we have to teach him some things because at some situations it was too stressful for him when he was not able to have his meal. So I had to kind of teach him how to have a mass protein bar, just a mass bar. You know what I mean? And today he came to me and I was like, yeah, I had a Snickers yesterday. It was awesome. Like I didn't feel bad about it because in the beginning I kind of forced him to buy such things and just to try chocolate again, and he was like, no, it felt horrible. I didn't enjoy it, and that it stuck with me because I was like, man, you can't really enjoy chocolate, like and it was a process. It took us like half a year, you know what I mean? But now he's pretty happy with that, I guess.
It's earned though. That's one thing, and I think that's why it's a system that is not very well received by newer people. I like that it is a little bit more mainstream, but it's unlike like the vertical diet's going around right now, and it has all the answers. You know.
What is going on with the vertical diet? I haven't looked into it, but so many people are into that.
It's man, it's funny. Stan Efferding can never get his hamstrings and glutes in either, so I'm not gonna hate on it. So it's like, hey, it doesn't work that good, right? But it's got some good fundamental principles in there that that I think compared to most people's like baseline diet, it's probably gonna put you in a better place.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of unnecessary rules, and you know how it is. Like when you started flexible dieting, it's like when this one major rule was removed, you're like, oh, my life is just so much better just because this rule was removed. And it's just like trimming all the stuff that's really not helping you get to your goal, focusing on the stuff that works, and then empowering the user to make decisions that help them get closer to whatever their most current goals are or whatever the most current situation is. And the vertical diet, that's kind of the issue. It's just like if you could eat like this the rest of your life and follow this, like you'll be good. And that doesn't really teach you anything. Whereas like flexible dieting, we all here have been through all the phases, and like it kind of sucked in sometimes, and there's many times where you thought you knew it all, and then you're like, fuck, I don't have all the control that I thought I did have. But eventually you get to the place where you're like when you're like, okay, this time I'm sure I think I kind of made it, where you are able, where you're like, that was all absolutely worth it. Like all the weird shit that I went through to get here was absolutely worth it. And I don't know if so I don't know if, did you guys hear this? I did a podcast with Steve Hall, and I couldn't really even talk about this like in the middle of my prep because I think people would try to do it, but like during my last prep, I didn't have a calculated intake. I just kind of winged it, and based on like how things were happening, I would go that. But it was always like, it was more than anything to be the best athlete that I could be. Like there was nothing else, and carbs were up, carbs were down. I'm gonna be in this city for 2 weeks. This is how we're gonna have to survive. So things like that. But before I got to that point, I was on my first prep where I actually got peeled for 9 months. I did not deviate from my macros, like within 5 grams.
Yeah.
And was that necessary 100%? Probably not. But like you do that, and then eventually, again, you start to trim the excess, and you can make better decisions as you go. But you have to go through the hard shit. It's earned, man. Like the flexible dieting black belt is earned.
Very well put. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's kind of related to the training side as well that we just touched on.
Yeah.
So I had actually a second question, which kind of also relates to the first one. So I wrote down, what are some of the biggest mistakes you see in a natural bodybuilding prep, especially in younger athletes? Yeah, that was kind of the question. Sorry, I kind of.
Oh, okay. So we can go across the board. Honestly, I think the biggest one is not knowing how lean you have to get. Like it's not until you have to do it that you're like, ooh, they weren't playing when they said lean. I think that's a huge one. And like for you, Jan, like when you do your first prep, like you kind of know what you're aiming for, like but the majority of people do not know. And it's not until you take things off, and then you put on your posing trunks, and you're like, this still does not look right, but I look so good in a sleeveless shirt, this makes no sense. So I think that's the first one, is like if you get someone who will look at your off-season weight and tell you, or your pictures and tell you this is what you have to be, someone with a good eye, that's going to help immensely because you at least know where point B is at. That is huge. So I think that would be the first one. And then the second one would be like not going through enough gaining and cutting cycles and practicing things and living the lifestyle. So like when Anthony's done with his prep, like the first thing I'm going to do is be like, dude, just like do what you were doing in the off season. Those are your instructions. I'm not going to give him calories most likely, unless like he's like, I feel better with that. It's like that lifestyle that you had, get back your old life. And like, let's just do that ASAP, because when you do that, you're at a very good body comp for the off season. So let's just go right back to that. And easy enough, but he can do that because he lives the lifestyle, because he's gone through cutting, gaining cycles. He knows what this feels like, what is too much food, like that sort of stuff. He knows what emotional eating is. So that would probably be the second one. And then I think the third one would be is like not getting formal help. I think most everyone their first prep just is like, this is how I'm going to learn the most. And it's like, no, you're not. You're going to get so many things wrong, and you're not going to know like what they are quite often. Like a good coach along the way is going to, especially if you're not at the point where you have a big knowledge base, a good coach should be able to educate you as they take you through the process. So you'll learn so much more. It'll be an effective prep. But those are probably the top three things. The top three things that like young guys, young physique athletes don't take into consideration. But I'd say they're probably a little bit more male, because most women, they'll get down to like whatever weight you want them to. Like the less, the better. They have no problem with that. You know, they're always too fat in their minds. You know, whereas it's shocking for a guy to like find out like, holy crap, like that I had a lot more body fat than I thought.
I'm actually, that's kind of funny, because a lot of people just then realize like, oh, I'm probably not 12% body fat, but rather like 18 or something. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And that really shocks you, man. Like with my first prep, it went 41 weeks. I did it on my own, and man, I lost like over 20 kg, and it was so perfectly described, because I was like 5 weeks out, I was like dying there, and I was like, man, why do I have still weight to lose? What is going on? And you really don't have any idea how much weight you have to lose. And yeah.
Well, and even with men's physique now, like every division, they all turn into bodybuilding over time. Like bikini girls this year have gotten so much harder. So like honestly, like if I get a male physique guy, it's like, you know what, like I'm gonna get you to the point where you're probably gonna have lines in your butt, because everything up top is gonna look harder too. I just can spill you over, you know, and like it's fine. But like everything's just getting leaner. So this goes, I think, for like all male divisions. I think a lot of guys will be like, but I'm a physique guy. It's like, no, dude, you're gonna get wrecked, because there's gonna be guys on that stage that actually got lean. So
interesting. Especially the coaching side as well. Like you touched on that, even if you have like a huge knowledge base, that you still, like, the coach is just like an objective eye, and even if you could theoretically prep yourself super efficient, just like decision making and making objective decision making with yourself is just like super hard.
You can convince yourself anything at that point, like anything. Like it's especially, and here's the thing: if you have an analytical mind and you are good at like debating, you're going to be able to debate with yourself and justify shit that makes absolutely no sense, you know? So, yeah.
Yeah, I kind of thought about the last years, if I should coach, if I should let someone coach me in my off season, and I just decided that at that point, also with my own career as a coach approaching, it's probably a good idea to learn how to coach myself, because if I get better in that, I for sure get better in coaching other people.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah, cool.
Are you going to hire someone for your prep?
Probably.
Okay.
Probably. I'm not too sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I will hire someone, if I'm be honest. Yeah. At least to consult. Maybe not full coaching, but at least to consult and.
Yeah, at least that. I would do at least that. Yeah. Yes. Because, you know,
with first go, you have to.
Yeah. With like the situation I'm having right now, it's like you get very, very subjective, and it's like if I change up a tiny thing, that's okay. But I hear from Alberto like once a week at least, so I can't really fuck shit up too badly. You know what I mean? Because if I would do like, okay, let's lower calories by 500 calories now, and 1 week later Alberto would recognize that, and the mistake wouldn't be made. You know what I mean? But so at least consultations, so you can't go false too badly. You know what I mean?
Shoot, I'm gonna say go ahead and honestly just get the full thing, dude, because like it'll wreck you. I'm very good at playing like dumb athlete. Like I can do that because I've been a dumb athlete. Like, you know, what does the coach say? Okay, I'll do it. You know, go run over that wall. Okay, I'll do it. And I can totally put that hat on, but dude, it just it makes you go to places in your own mind. And that's probably, honestly, that's probably the funnest part, is the fucking mind games. Like it's like being like, that is something that you just don't get to experience in a first world country. And if it's like all the shit that you go through, it's, dude, it's that's a huge part of the challenge. It's not just like lifting weights when you're like dieted, but it's like being able to expose yourself to that and getting better at it is like, man, it's such a useful skill. But dude, yeah, you'll do well. But you'll be like, you'll love it. You'll love the conversations you have with yourself, like at the oddest of times.
Yeah. Oh man, so funny that you say that. I'm having those.
Think of. Sometimes when someone's talking to you, you're having those conversations, which is totally not appropriate, but that's how it is.
Yeah. I mean, I have some time to think about it, and
yeah,
let's see what happened in those like 1.5 years nearly. So cool. I think we're nearly on an hour right now. So if you guys have anything to add, I would be cool. But otherwise, I would probably wrap it up now.
Shoot. No. I know this was a lot about prepping, but yeah, I would encourage a lot of your, as I'm getting better at it, a lot of, because I want to bring gaining back. Like, that is the one thing that I want to make sexy and appealing again. Like, because, you know, a lot of those chicks on Instagram be saying, like, you know, gaining weight is cool. And it's like, you don't even really mean it. Like, I've known half of you, and, like, on the other end, like, you guys don't really think that. But, like there's, I guess there hasn't been a movement like that for, like, because, you know, the aesthetics generation is, like, you know, it's, like, super in. And it's really affected the way a lot of guys, like, bodybuild. And I feel like it's especially, remember my first like actual good gaining phase, there was many points on the way up where I was like, fuck, like, I don't look good anymore. Like, I need to go back. But I kept going because I wasn't 200 pounds, and you need to be 200 pounds, like, for that skill in order to like lift. And then in hindsight, like, I remember just after many years, a few cycles of like gaining and cutting kind of, where like I went back to those like 188 pounds, which was my first time that I was like, this looks horrible, and it looks so good, you know. But had I not pushed through that like unknown and gotten into that area, like it would not have happened. So yeah, like if listeners, if you guys would spare me 15 minutes of your time every week, I have a bulking log. I'm getting better at it. But eventually I want to leave a huge lifting library, and I'm going to make some sensational progress as someone who's been training for a long time, because I just like you dig deep when you're dieting for prep to get down, because I dug deep the other way. So that's, I'm pimp my stuff.
I love those actually.
So,
I think I can speak for Toni as well.
Eating.
Appreciate it, man.
Cool. I would definitely also give you the opportunity to plug anything you want, like 3DMJ World maybe, or just your coaching in general maybe.
Yeah, go through our website. It's better and better every day as well. And we have a lot of stuff consistently coming out now. And yeah, it's getting pretty good over there. So definitely check it out if you guys haven't. We're doing all right.
Cool, definitely. So guys, I wish you the best, and yeah, a good day, and maybe we see you soon again.
Hey, absolutely. I'd love to do it again. So yeah, maybe the post-contest wrap-up. There we go.
Yeah,
we'll do that.
Cool.
Yeah.